Well, hey, everybody, welcome back to Black Lotus. Today we have a very special guest with us. His name is John H.K. Fisher, and he's written a pretty fascinating book called Blink of an Eye. But before we get into that, Ralph, happy birthday.
Yeah, happy anniversary.
As of this recording, we are actually 1 year old today. And so, yeah, happy birthday to us. While we're on the subject of Black Lotus, I want to make sure that everybody understands that we have a group over at Facebook, and it's called the Black Lotus Discussion Group. And if you're into the stuff that we talk about at all, and I know you are because you're here watching this, definitely go over there and join us. It's a great bunch of people, no trolls, and it's everybody's very knowledgeable there. So yeah, definitely check us out over there. But anyway, let's get on with the show. So today, as I said, we have John H.K. Fisher, and John started off with having spiritual experiences early on in life. So John, without further ado, let me switch this over to you. How's it going today?
Oh, very good. Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show, and happy birthday for your 1 year anniversary.
Thanks.
That's an awesome accomplishment.
So tell us about what happened to you way back when you were a kid.
Okay. I was growing up in Calgary, Alberta, and my family, my father had passed away as a pilot, and my mom was struggling with that reality, but she'd was cohabitating with somebody, and I guess they were having marital problems. So the Maharishi came to Calgary from India, and it was splashed all over the newspapers. They put out a lot of ads and stuff like that, and that's to do with the Transcendental Meditation (TM) movement.
Right.
And so I was just 9, and my sister and I were dragged down there to go along with the parents, and they were saying that it's not a religion. It's just learn how to relax, learn how to relieve your stress in your life. And so when you're in the city, everybody's, stressed out and stuff, trying to get to work and all that. So my parents, I guess, thought it was a good idea. But then when the church found out about it, they, threatened excommunication or whatever. And it was the devil and everything. So that kind of squashed it. But in the meantime, my mom had bought a whole bunch of books at the conference, I guess. And so she had these books lying around, and just that whole vibe, I guess it really stuck to me, and we were given a mantra. So then when I was 14, the mantra came back on its own. Yeah, I kind of, as a kid, I kind of just forgot about it. And then that mantra came back into my mind on its own. And then I had a spiritual experience. But the one before that, and maybe this is what triggered my ability for my mind to go there, was I will admit, I was at a party, and we took in the book our drinks were laced with acid. And so I ended up really being affected emotionally, and lots of hallucinations and stuff like that. And my hallucinations were so real. It was as if it was really happening. I don't know if you want me to go into.
Oh yeah, please.
Some of those hallucinations. Well, I was at the party, and there was a painting, and it was of a lake or something, and trees and stuff, scenery. And all of a sudden, I had a pet squirrel that I used to take to the park, and all the hippies and all us would play with it in the park. It would be on our shoulders and pass from one pocket to the other. And I saved it when it was a baby and fed it, and it was my own personal pet. Like, it was always with me. And I took it to school and everything. But a dog ate it.
No.
Yeah, so it was real emotional. We were all bummed out about it. But at this party, after having taken the spiced drink, Homer all of a sudden appeared in the picture. And I go, "Oh, there's Homer. He's come to say hi." And all of a sudden he jumped out of the picture, and he runs on the couch, And then he runs on the floor and he goes into this bedroom. So I go running in, I screaming to everybody, Homer's here and let's find Homer. And so we all ran into the bedroom, and of course we couldn't find him. But then um, just some things were happening in there and we all left. So, and then I saw Homer go back into the picture and disappear in the trees. And it was so real for me. It was just, it really affected me.
Yeah.
But everybody started making fun of me, saying, "Oh, you know, you're seeing your dead squirrel and all this," and they were making fun of me. So I left the party, and I went to a park where we all, a bunch of people always hung out, playing music and doing stuff at this park in the middle of a small town in BC. It was Cranbrook, BC,
Okay.
at this time, and not Calgary. So apparently there was strychnine in that acid, and some of my friends went to the hospital and they were looking for me, but I didn't know they were looking for me to help me. I thought they were after me, and I started getting paranoid. So I went up the tree, and I remember seeing the police with their flashlights calling out my name, looking for me and stuff, but I just hid up in this tree. But all of a sudden, before that, while I was at the park, I had some mind-boggling hallucinations. A friend of mine came out from behind a tree with a big knife, and he looked like a bear.
Oh.
And he ran over to this angel, a friend of mine that was in this, you know, the kiddie pool, like little wading pool up to your ankle probably. And it turned into a real big whirlpool. And he went over there and started killing her, and then they got sucked into this whirlpool. So it was pretty traumatic.
A pretty bad trip.
Yeah, it was a bad trip. My mouth opened, and I tried to call for the police, but I couldn't close my mouth. So I couldn't talk. My mouth had got emotionally opened, and it was like I was just in shock. And then a friend took me to a church and calmed me down. And then I was able to talk. But then those friends came and said, "Hey, man, we were just joking. It was all a joke. We were just playing with you." And because he actually did go over and pretend to be stabbing her, apparently. He was just doing it to freak me out, and it certainly did. But so anyway, I went up into this tree after, and the branches started to become snakes, and they were coming at me. And just the way everybody's brought up, you're brought up, everything is God, right? You go to school, it's God. Every corner there's a church, so there's no other option in your mind. It's God, right? Anything that happens, it's all to do with God, right?
Right.
And so I just started praying to God, and I wasn't, I was a seeker. I went to church, I questioned things, but it wasn't real heavy in my life. You know, you're a kid, you're just playing around and stuff. And then I prayed, and then I was so in fear, and the snakes were coming, and they were trying to get in my mouth, and it was really scaring me. And so when I prayed, a bolt of lightning struck me, and I was just instantly sober. Like that, I was just no more hallucinations, no more fear. And I had so much energy. I got down off that tree, and for 3 weeks, I remember I hardly slept, and I was just full of energy. And I remember having this job, and they told me to get lost because I was doing too much work. It was supposed to take 2 weeks, and I was getting it done in a day, kind of thing.
Okay.
And it just really hit me like, okay, well, maybe there is a God. He's listening to me. He can hear me. He can see that I'm in trouble, and he's helping me. And so I went off to a place in the mountains where there was a lake, and I was sitting under this tree, and I think it was about 2 months after, and I hadn't done drugs. Like once God hit me, once that lightning hit me, I didn't do drugs. I didn't do anything. So I wasn't, anyway, I was sitting under this tree, and I was just singing. I wasn't praying because I was trying to write a song. So I was really focused on my guitar, but I was open-minded. I was trying to figure out what I'm going to write about, and I was writing about the deer coming down the mountain. And don't like God wasn't really in the lyrics or anything, and all of a sudden that word, that mantra came to my mind, and on its own, like I didn't think about it, I wasn't thinking about it, and that word came, and all of a sudden I was out of my body flying towards the stars.
Okay.
And I remember seeing the stars, and then I was having a very intense spiritual experience, emotionally and spiritually, where I felt my love and I was becoming, my mind and my consciousness was becoming universal, because I thought I loved my family and I loved, then I thought of my friends, and then all of a sudden it just expanded to whole universe, all the earth and the whole universe. And I just felt like I was becoming one with the universe. And I thought, oh, God's gonna come talk to me, or he's gonna be there and all this. But instead I just was up in the sky, and I thought, and I started wondering, where the heck am I? What am I doing?
Right.
And then all of a sudden I looked down, because I was wondering where I was, and I could see myself under the tree with my guitar. And so that just instantly brought me back into my body. And then all of a sudden I was back there playing my guitar, crying, and just, it was very powerful. Like, it changed my life. Like,
Mm-hmm.
um, it was so real. But when I went excitedly trying to tell people, there is a God, there is, we have a soul, we can leave the body and all this, they just shut me down. Like,
Yeah.
just shut up, that you're crazy. And then they said it was the drugs. And
Well, and if I could interrupt you here for a second, I'm wondering about that. Do you think that that the drugs had any influence on that?
well, obviously, yeah. I mean, when I was in like having those when I was actually had taken the acid and having those hallucinations, it definitely was. And that's like blink of an eye came about with that struggle. Like, after 30 years of bashing my head against the wall, trying to recreate God in my life
Mm.
and bring God into my life, I ended up going to India and having a master and everything. And I was like 3 hours a day meditating. I was very strict. I was a vegetarian. I did everything they told me to do. And I was supposed to be able to see God in this life. I was know my past lives. I could, um, you know, all the things they tell you.
Right.
So when I was looking back, I was thinking, geez, the mind is capable of so many things. And I could see for real the Homer and the bear and the snakes and everything. So maybe these other things have something more to do with the mind than they have to do with reality. I know that's where the catharsis of the book came from anyway, like just going through that struggle
I see.
of trying to. So to answer your question, I mean, I wished I knew the answer. Part of this is a cry out for help. I mean, before I die, I would like to know more, and I wish science had more money, like for whatever it is, if it's aliens, if it's uh, simulation, if it's a hologram, if there is a God, whatever it is, if as humanity, if we all pooled our resources and try to get to the bottom of it more. I mean, they just started, neuroscience and stuff. They just started delving into the brain after, all this time, because all these things are taboo. We're all, held back by religion and stuff. So
Mm.
that's part of my cry is, let's find out the truth. Let's put resources, and maybe there are answers, So
Yeah.
to answer your question right now, I honestly don't know. Like, but obviously, there was hallucinations from the drugs that could have carried on into being flashbacks or something, or it could have triggered things in my brain that allowed me to have these experiences. But I didn't do drugs after that. And then my spiritual experiences later in life, like once I got, like I tried to get that back, and I couldn't. So it kept making me realize that I'm limited on my own, because on my own, meditate, I'd do everything, I'd read, and I couldn't bring it back on my own. So I felt I needed help. And at first I would avoid, I didn't want to become boxed in. I wanted God to come to me directly. But he wasn't. He was just leaving me there. Like, he like opened up the box and then just disappeared. So I was like freaking out. Come on. Like, so then I went to India. I followed all kinds of different masters and religions trying to find the answer. And I settled on this one path. And, I could go on, like, it's a long story and everything, but like Gavin said, well, like, paranoia experience, right? Like, so one of the things that would happen is when I'm really meditating, really focused with the master, looking, trying to open up my third eye and all that, he would actually shift shape, like shape shifting. Like I could see him turn into other masters, other people, or other entities.
Really?
And with my eyes open, and I'd be like, is this real? Like, is this really happening? But it's in the culture, it's in the writing. Like that master would say he could see that when he looked at his master. Really? And that was part of the allure. Like they said, it's science. So you're going to see God. You're going to prove it for yourself. It's not just, when you die, you get the truth. You're going to get it in this lifetime. So that was like, if you're digging for water, you start to strike water. You start to believe more and more that there's water there, right?
Right.
So I saw the shape shifting. I thought, well, geez, that doesn't happen when I look at anybody else or a minister or the Pope or anything. It happens with this guy. So maybe he's got something. So it made me really stick with it. And then, like they talk about hearing the celestial music and all that, and I did hear some bells one time. Oh, sorry, yes?
No, I was going to say, you had mentioned something about aliens. Did you see aliens also as a shape-shifting, or?
No, like I wouldn't say so. It was like when I looked, I'd go to the university and look through, the history, and I think I saw Kabir because of the hat, and I think I saw Nanak because of the hat. Like his hat would change because he had a turban, and then all of a sudden it would become flat, and it like the hat would become really pronounced. But his lips and eyes, everything. I mean, I wouldn't know what I was seeing really, because I wanted to go up and talk. And one time I did ask him. I asked him, "Who am I seeing?" Like, but one time, like they say, if you see red eyes, that's the devil. You're supposed to not. And one time I did see red eyes.
I've heard that before. Yeah, that if you see if their eyes are glowing or they're red, that it would be a demonic entity.
So that did happen once. It freaked me out, and I went and asked him. I said, "Is the devil tricking me? Is the devil trying to put doubt in my mind and stuff like that?" And he just went, "Yeah." Like he didn't go into it. I couldn't get it out of him, but the alien thing for me was maybe there's other explanations. Like we always blame everything on God, who there's no proof for, and there's no, he's not doing anything in the world, right? That we'd like him to be doing. Like we'd like him to be getting rid of evil and, making life better and all the sickness, cancer, all that, right? There's no evidence that God is good, that he's doing good, right? That's least as far as I'm concerned. Like, I guess if you're talking to somebody else, but for humanity on a whole. So maybe there's other explanations, like the simulation theory or the hologram theory or alien theory or whatever theory. So, but personally, I know you've had connections with an alien experience, and I don't know if I have. I can't pin it down. I've been trying to think in my memory if anything could relate to that. And I haven't been able to so far. So there was shape-shifting of the master, but then the real heavy experience that I had, there's all kinds of anecdotal things where other people have incredible experiences who would tell me things, and I didn't witness it. But one time after my master passed away, they were having a ceremony, and I walked into the auditorium, and my master, who was dead, who burned at the funeral, he was in India, they burn you
Right.
in a pile of wood. He walked on the stage. I saw him walk on the stage, and then these gold pillars rose up, and there were angels. There was all this white light, and I saw the angels put a big, jeweled, bright, sparkling crown on his head
Okay.
to my dead master. Then they took the crown and they put it on the successor's head. And the successor walked up and sat in a big throne. And that was like jeweled and gold and full of light, and, light coming off of it and everything. And then and then the master, my master who was passed away, then he came to the front and he laid down, and they did a ceremony and they closed his eyes, and he was laying down, and then the whole, like, I was standing there emotional, I was crying, and I didn't know what was appropriate. Like, I'm a pretty passive guy, so I wished in my mind I could have ran up there and talked to them and see if it was real. I was looking around to see if there were, it just seemed like a hologram image, because I could see the original, like it was the successor was up there and some people were talking and stuff. They were on the stage and I could see that. And this was sort of superimposed on top of it or above it. The throne was above the speaker, the real live people. And I could still see that. I could see the real live people. I could see the microphone, but this was sort of superimposed on top of it. And I was looking around thinking maybe they're projecting like with a projector.
Okay.
And then I was rubbing my eyes and opening them. And the master often said, if you close your eyes and you see God, then that's real. If you see it with your eyes open, that's a gift kind of thing. It's just a miracle that you're given, but you haven't gone to that level. I don't know. It's all these planes and hierarchies. But anyway, so I tried to close my eyes to see if God was there, and the light was there. Like if your eye is single, your whole body will full of light. That's in the Bible. So I closed my eyes, make my eyes signal, and it was darkness. So then I opened my eyes again, and it was there. The throne, everything was still there.
Everything. Yeah.
But eventually, I don't know how long it took. Like it seemed like a long time, but I don't know. Could have been only minutes or 5 minutes. I don't know how long it lasted, but eventually it just faded. And it kind of faded. Like first, my master who was dead, who was lying down, that faded, and then the angels kind of faded. And then the throne faded. And then the successor would shapeshift. He would turn into my master and other masters when I was looking at him. So everything kind of faded, and then the shape shifting continued on for a while, and then the ceremony, eventually ended and stuff. But this was after many years of pounding my head against the wall, meditating, trying to be perfect and do everything, and it was always my fault. Oh, you don't do this good enough. That's why you're not seeing God. Or you don't do this good enough. You're not. It was always my fault. And I thought, well, why can't it be God's fault for once? Like, why can't God have more mercy, or God be more forgiving, or God be more? So then I had this, like, if this experience was in the Bible, I would be a saint. I would be like a hero, because in the Bible, in Revelation, some guy saw the throne and all that, and he was a saint, right? Well, me, I was just the same old dumb human being, just regular guy that I always was. I still had the same desires, the same doubts, the same problems that I was dealing with, jobs, everything else, dealing with other people and stuff. And nothing had changed. And I thought, well, if God has all this power, he can manifest for me like this scene. Why can't he do anything? Like help? Like I don't know. I just got sick of bashing my head against the wall, and I was at the end of my rope, and that experience, instead of giving me the ecstasy to be closer to God, it just threw me away because I just had it. I thought, if God is real, if that was real, then I've had enough. I'm going to be a rebel against it, because if
So
it's true that he has all this power and he's not doing anything, that's an atrocity.
so John, I have to ask you then, uh, with all those doubts that they instilled in you, is that what eventually led you to leave the group?
Oh yes, definitely. Then, but I started writing like crazy and saying, listen, I've done everything and it's been 30 years, and why? And then he wrote back, and this is the successor. It's not my master,
Uh-huh.
but, and nobody knows who the successor is. Every time a master dies, there's 20, 30, 100 people saying they're the master, right?
Oh, right. Okay.
So yeah, so I picked this guy, and and I thought, well, maybe he is, and but he wrote back saying that humans aren't allowed to know the truth. So after all those years being told that we're going to get the truth in this lifetime and that we can know God in this lifetime, all of a sudden it's all flipped and we're not allowed to know the truth. Plus, he said that God had created, he said, it's like going to a game, and if all the teams are fighting and they're all equal, there's no fun in that, because you're always going to know that nobody's going to win, or if one team is always winning, then it's not going to be any fun because it's predictable, right? You're going to go and it's going to be boring because you know who's going to win. So he made a game, and God made the game so unpredictable, nobody knows what's going on or who's going to win.
Okay.
And I thought, oh my God, is this what I've been doing for 30 years? And I just thought, that is the most psychopathic explanation of God that I've ever heard. That he's going to create all this suffering, world wars. I had family members die in world wars, and he's going to create all this confusion, all these religions, all this death and misery, just as a game, just to see who can win and just to keep himself from being bored.
Yeah.
So then that's where the book came from, Blink of an Eye. It was just like, in the blink of an eye, evil can become good, can become evil. And I just couldn't reconcile. So I just was looking for other explanations. Maybe, we're a simulation, or maybe this is a hologram, or maybe there's aliens that created us and stuff. Like, I don't know. And then I was asking him about like evolution. How does that fit in now? Because they believe, like all the aliens, what my master said was that they're on the inner planes and they're not supposed to come here and show themselves to us. But sometimes out of mischief, they're mischievous. So sometimes they pop out of the causal plane or the astral plane just to freak us out. And the master said, I'll go in there and scold them if they're not supposed to be doing that. But he said there aren't any aliens, that we're the only living conscious entity in the universe. I don't know. That was my master. So I always thought if I could find aliens, then I could prove that my master's a liar, that he's not God. Because, everybody said the master's God, right? He's one with God. And whatever he says, it's like the Catholics, whatever the Pope says is coming from the mouthpiece of God, right? He's the mouthpiece of God, right? So same with us. So when he said there were no aliens, that they're spirits in the astral plane or the causal plane just coming down and, playing with us, they're being mischievous. So I don't know.
Yeah, I believe that. I'm a big believer in the whole ancient alien theory, that they splice their DNA with ours, and that's how we became Homo sapiens. But yeah, I'm totally on board with you there.
That that it's that they're in the astral plane, you mean?
Yeah, well,
Or
yes. What I believe more is that they are what we have always considered to be gods. I mean, you look at the Anunnaki, and how with the tales that they came here to create a slave race for themselves, and then they did so, and we did this in exchange for knowledge that they had, and then they suddenly split. And I think that all religions are kind of based on that, insofar as these sky gods came down, blessed us with all this knowledge, and then they left, and we're all waiting for them to return, basically.
okay, so do you believe that they've come from this universe, from another planet, or they've come from the inner planes?
I don't know. I don't know if they've come
Okay,
from this universe or not. I have no idea, really. But my own theory is that they are from this universe.
okay, because then there's the idea of multiverses. Maybe they found a way to come from another
Right, right.
multiverse and come into our universe. Yeah, but if science doesn't have the funding that it needs, to get on top of all this, and so hopefully there could be a movement and people see the importance of getting to the truth of all this, and start funneling their resources in these directions. But everybody wants to have, that with the big ego, I know the way, I know the answer, or whatever.
Right,
So then it kind
right.
of puts an end to the search. Like if the Pope says one thing, right? So I don't know. It's
Wouldn't it be
difficult.
nice? Wouldn't it be nice if all the religions could just come together? And wouldn't it be nice if we added reason to religion? Like you say, with bringing in the science into it.
Yeah, and getting concrete evidence, scientific evidence, not perverted with politics or money and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That would be nice, certainly. Ralph, do you have any questions for John?
Yeah, I was wondering now, what are your belief in aliens themselves then? After, you say that it could be, do you actually believe that there is aliens out there and that's part of it, or?
yeah, so I know, like in Blink of an Eye in the book, at the end, that's how I solve all the mystery. Like he gets this power, like he meets the master thinking it's God, and then he gets all this power, and then in the end, that they find this book, and they need the book to get further knowledge and further, because the aliens left this book and it has all the history and all the knowledge. Before they left this book. So he gets a hold of the book and he finds out that the master is an alien, and the aliens had come to Earth and like you say, splice the DNA and all that or whatever. And so I just felt I had to go there to get out of this whole thing that everything is God, that everybody goes to, like
Right.
I had to go somewhere. But to be honest, I haven't had an abduction experience. I haven't saw a spaceship myself. So, to be honest, I can't say that I don't have a belief. I guess it's more of an agnostic saying that I wish whoever has something, it's kind of a plea for help. If you do have evidence, let's bring it out and let's look at the evidence. Let's put more resources and let's try to find the truth. I don't have the truth. I don't have the answers. So personally, my mind is open to it now, whereas before it never was,
Right.
because everything was God or the master or whatever. So where does this power come from? Like, I had an experience. Is that just the power of my mind? and it had nothing to do, or did he create that? Did he create that experience so that I could have that experience? Or some a third party like the alien gave me that experience for whatever reason? Who knows? I don't know. It's just such a mystery.
Yeah.
There's so many mysteries. Whereas you guys, you've had concrete experiences, so it's real for you. But scientists would want to prove, or would want to know if that's just within your own mind, or is it something that could be verifiable? You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, that's right. It's so open-ended. That's right.
Yeah. Well, John, we're going to wrap this up for today. Thank you very much for being on the program with us. You've lived a fascinating life. You really have.
Yeah, I hope we get some feedback from this, some direction, or if anybody has evidence or anything they can add to our experiences that we've had, and try to give closure what happened.
Yeah. Well, so John, thank you very much again for being on.
Get some answers finally, and I'm tuning into your guys's. Yeah,
I think we're.
Thank you.
Going back and forth here. Anyway, yes, thank you very much for being on the program with us. Folks, don't forget to like and comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you have had experiences similar to this, let us know, and because we'd like to hear it. So drop a comment below. But anyway, what do you say we get out of here for the day?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Until next time, folks.
Happy birthday. 1 year you guys have been going at it. Great.
Yeah. Until next time, folks, keep thinking and question everything.